Hello and welcome to this episode of the You, Me and ADHD podcast. I'm your host, Callum McCurdy, and today's guest is none other than Jenny Martin. Jenny is a real Energizer bunny, and we met a number of months ago through LinkedIn. We've had a great chat today, and what we've talked about is her background in executive recruitment, her masters in criminal law and human rights, and how she's been sort of drawn to those sectors and those areas of interest, and made the connection with essentially how she saw a lot of people falling through the cracks who were neurodiverse and in particular had ADHD, and she had a real affinity for those people.
But why? Why does it have to? Why like that? Why, down to everything? I question.
Hey, so welcome to this episode of You, Me and ADHD. This is a podcast that's unapologetically positive about, or we have a positive take on living, working and thriving with ADHD, especially in a world that I guess is not designed with our minds in mind. And we've got a cracking good guest on the episode today. I'm really looking forward to this chat. So welcome along, Jenny Martin. And Jen, we've spoken a couple of times. We've met in Auckland, and I'd be very keen to get a bit more of your background for listeners to hear. But I wonder if we can start with maybe a wee bit of your background before you've even had a chance to speak a word. I'll point out that you have an accent. Where's that from?
I'm from England originally, the southwest, the farming capital of the UK.
The farming capital, yeah. Are you from a farm? Are you from a farm?
No.
No. Okay. There we go. Do you like farm animals?
I like farm animals. I like all animals, Callum.
Yeah.
I love.
Cool. And so where in particular in the UK are you from?
Somerset. Which is southwest.
Yeah.
And my hometown is actually Weston-super-Mare.
Oh wow.
These.
Say that again?
The home of John Cleese.
Oh, really? Okay, there we go. So John Cleese. Now, did he call Palmerston North or Hamilton? He was quite insulting, I think, once about. Maybe it wasn't him. Oh, it doesn't matter. Look, we've already gone down a rabbit hole, Jen. So this is the structure of this podcast, and I know the chat with you because we've had a couple of chats in the past, and we've been on a webinar together, and we're just sort of riffing off each other, which was really cool. And so I thought, well, this would be great to have you on, and just to talk a wee bit about your background. So how long have you been in New Zealand?
I've been in New Zealand about 16 years.
Mm-hmm. What brought you here?
But we came on a whim. So I've worked in recruitment, talent and HR for the last 20 odd years. And I was working in the UK doing recruitment, and actually recruitment's a really kind of, I think, easy thing to do when you've got ADHD, because it uses a lot of the superpowers that we have. And so as a kind of young person operating in that field, I was really successful. So I was working for Brook Street, which was part of the Manpower Group, which was the biggest recruitment company in the world. And in the UK, I was one of the top 10 salespeople. So that's having 2 branches, which is over 2,000 consultants. And I was one of the top 10 salespeople. So I won all sorts of exciting things and got to go to Moulin Rouge first class on the Eurostar, and all sorts of amazing opportunities came out of that. But then I think probably like most of us kind of have an insatiable appetite to do more, be more, see more, play more.
Yeah.
At the time I just thought I'm going to go move somewhere else, and I know this is really terrible, but I hadn't heard anything bad about New Zealand, so I obviously hadn't heard the John Cleese comment.
If it was him.
I'm going to move somewhere where I can carry on my career that speaks English. Canada, maybe, but could be cold. New Zealand sounds amazing. So I quit my job, sold my house, 6 weeks after I decided to come.
Wow, just like that, on a whim, huh?
Just like that, on a whim.
Typically ADHD, huh? Yeah, cool. Hey, so tell me, if we go back a step, what do you think? Because that's a massive achievement, one of the top 10 recruiters in a massive organisation. So what do you put that down to?
Now, looking back, I put it down to probably lots of the kind of traits that come through with ADHD. So I can hyperfocus. So if I'm concentrating on something, I can really, really, really concentrate, and I understand everything. I need lots of information, lots of data points, and understand how things work. And actually, I could see really quickly with the sales side of things, because external recruitment tends to be more sales focused, that actually my competitive nature came through, and also sensitivity to other people.
Okay.
I can see things that other people can't see, so I pick up on things, and I can put lots of information together, and so I just ended up being able to read situations really well and be quite opportunistic. So if I spot a tiny little gap in there, no, we don't need any recruiters, but then I would sneak through.
Yeah. And you've summed up so many, like, that was beautiful. That's like 90 seconds talking up ADHD and all the amazing traits and superpowers that come with it, right? Plus, you know, a plethora of so many more. And that summary, like, really lights me up, and that there really is, there's almost no end to the ability that we have if we put our minds to using those traits, right? Do you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, and even when you think about people that are people that inspire us or people that we admire, nearly all of them have neurodiverse traits or exhibit diversity, because they don't think the same. That's why, I mean, it's why we can, I'm going to use the word manifest, because actually creativity and innovation is around manifesting something that wasn't already there or that someone hadn't already thought of.
Yeah.
And I ADHD people and dyslexic, autism, Asperger's, the whole spectrum, because we don't see things in the same way, we are the masters of manifesting things that weren't there.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I also think, and you'll get this. I don't know if you've ever thought this, Jen, but I kind of sometimes feel sorry for neurotypicals who are striving to be like Elon Musk or Bill Gates or Steve Jobs or whoever else. These people, and Richard Branson, like, we hold up these entrepreneurs and these really, really successful business people who start something up off the sniff of an oily rag and work bloody hard, like focus on some stuff and achieve big goals, but we hold them up as the business gurus that everybody should aspire to and wants to aspire to. Not everybody, but a lot of people do, right? And yet they're all neurodiverse. And so they have this special essence and a set of traits and behaviors that most people try to be like, but can't actually replicate. And so as a result, I kind of just feel a wee bit sorry that people don't have ADHD or don't have dyslexia. Now, I know I'm going to cop a lot of flack for those sorts of things, because I know that with neurodiversity comes a whole lot of struggles and fears and stigma that holds us down. But if we tilt and flip the script on that and see the positives and how those positives can be used to hack the negatives as well, you know, all the better. Like, there's this unleashing that can happen with us if we tap into that, especially as adults. You agree?
I absolutely agree, but and because of the nature of me, I'm going to go back a few steps.
Cool.
And then we'll go steps and we'll just dance our way through
Do it.
the next conversation. So, I actually, yes, we hold Elon Musk, Richard Branson, all of those entrepreneurs up, but there is another piece to it as well, because so I did my Bachelor of Criminology, Bachelor of Arts, Criminology,
Yeah.
I got an honours degree, and then I did my LLM, my Masters in Criminal Law and Human Rights.
Wow.
And the reason that I started off and I went down that track is, I think, because ADHD. Okay, I won't talk about ADHD because I know it upsets everybody if you talk about it as a big thing, because it appears and we experience it in people in different ways.
Yeah.
But one of the things I would say around studying criminology and the kind of penal system is that actually there are probably a number of people that end up on the bad side of law because of being neurodiverse, and because they can exhibit all the same traits, that kind of being really good at something if they want to, being really driven to do well, hyper focusing, learning lots of things, and being a little bit opportunistic. That can appear in different ways, and I think there is a whole piece around the exclusive nature of getting a diagnosis as well.
Yeah.
Because in New Zealand, one of the reasons why I went down the track of maybe reflecting on myself and my behaviour a little bit is because I'm raising a neurodiverse son. Now, to be able to get my neurodiverse son diagnosed, it was absolutely
Not easy.
Not easy at all, and it's very expensive
Yeah.
and time consuming to be able to go through and to get a diagnosis around something, and then the stigma that comes with, if you say ADHD, and what people's perception of it. And this is why this kind of podcast, these conversations are so essential, because we're paving the way for the young ones to come through and have somewhere where they can flourish, and that we can actually utilize the skills that they have. It's all very well being able to make lots of money to go in recruitment or to do this, but there's a whole group of people that don't get to experience the positive side of it because they're continually put down. Now, Elon Musk, Richard Branson, Steve Jobs all came from very wealthy families. They were already at private schools, going through education, being told that they're going to be the best of the best, and this is how you use it. And actually, what about the ones that aren't?
Yeah.
What about the young ones that are sat in classrooms just constantly told that they're stupid, that they're naughty, that they're never going to amount to anything? Because I remember at school being told, this is the classic, isn't it? You would do so much better if you didn't talk as much.
Yeah. Yeah, if you just sit still or just pay attention.
And I'm conscious because I'm fidgeting, but
Yeah, fidgeting's great. Like I get away with some drumsticks, and just here tapping away, which helps me. People think, oh, that must be a distraction, but no. If I'm actually doing that, I'm able to focus on what you're saying, and because I need to multitask, and that's how I pay attention to people, by alleviating my need to fidget, move around, jiggle a little bit. As if I let myself do that, I can then pay full attention to you. Because my attention isn't best held with one thing at the same, all at once. It needs to be multi-attentional, if that's even a word.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Because lots of the time you can be having conversations with people and they'll be like, "But you're not listening," and I can literally repeat what you've just said.
Yeah.
I need to be fiddling with something, and I can blow dry my hair at the same time.
Yeah, that's right. If the volume's up, we're all good.
It's good.
So then, Jen, tell me, I'll know the answer to this, but what you've just alluded to is there's positives, negatives, there's yin yang, there's good and bad. ADHD, curse or gift? What do you reckon?
Yes.
Gift? Yeah?
Yes.
In what way?
Because okay, let's go back, because that was a very definite gift, and it is a very definite gift. But like you just talked about, it's a yin and a yang situation, because I'm the ideas person. So if anybody wants to run something, give me a lot of information and me come up with an idea, I'm the person that will think differently about things.
Mm-hmm.
But because there's this other side to ADHD, which when we can be hyper-focused, we can also be hypercritical. And usually that critic is played out on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know about you, but I know that I am my own worst enemy.
100%, yeah.
Because I can, on the one hand, it's so amazing to be able to think differently.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, sometimes I just wish I could think the same and not constantly challenge and not constantly get new ideas around things, and that I could just accept that it is the way that it is. But I am that person that said, why? But why? Why does it have to? Why like that? Why? Down to everything I question. So if it's not object reality, it's not grass, trees, river, water, it wasn't man-made, everything else is up for question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's gorgeous and that's beautiful, and that's that's when you're intrigued, but also makes you intriguing as well. And yeah, I get that some people get annoyed with being asked why all the time, but that's out of curiosity, and it's not out of I want to be a pain in the ass. It's about, tell me a wee bit more, right? Help me understand. And so, but I think we are absolutely like literally dog barking in the background, dog with a bone, right? We go why, and just keep on going, because we're almost. It's not that we're not satisfied with other people, but we're not yet satisfied with drawing the links and the connecting things for us. Like, it doesn't necessarily land, so we just keep asking why. And I reckon that's all good. Like, we can harness that, can't we?
We definitely can, and I recently listened to a good book, and I'm not going to pretend that I read it. I very rarely read a book because for lots of reasons.
Yeah.
One of them being dyslexic, that it's slower to read a book, but also because I think in pictures. My mind creating this ongoing movie as I'm reading a book, and it doesn't always work that well. So I've now started to listen to a book, because then I can do the dishes and write essays and do all sorts of things in the background.
And imagine the book as it's being read to you, right? That's the...
And that, absolutely. Well, I actually feel like I sink into the book.
Yeah.
Because it's like a moving film.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine and I play it out. So sometimes, it's like watching a film.
Yeah. And well, I'm the same in that that I prefer to listen to books. When I read, I have to imagine each word, so that slows me down. I mean, it's microseconds, but it still takes effort. And I'm imagining the words and how they connect to each other, and so I'm not actually able to imagine the whole thing, as if someone's reading it to me, and I'm able to sort of fill that in with my own imagination. It just takes less effort. So listening to books is... I totally I sympathise and I empathise with you, Jen, that it helps us do other things. I also think, just going back to the way you talked about the critique and sort of reflecting on things, at the end of a day, I'm just replaying that whole day as well, and so I'm getting to sleep. Like, it's almost like I light up when my head hits the pillow, because I'm replaying the whole day, and I wish I could turn that off. Like, I love that because I get to enjoy really good experiences again, but I do sort of spiral around some things that I wish I could have done differently, not necessarily better, but just differently, and that's a big distraction for me. Do you find that?
Oh, absolutely. And that whole replaying things, it's forever as well.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's like, I always think that, and I've been starting to think recently, it's like being a supercomputer. So you've got this massive processing power that goes on in our brains, and we're literally taking in everything. So whilst I'm talking to you, I'm also very conscious of what's happening outside, what's happening. I can hear the washing machine going.
Mm-hmm.
We can hear all of these other things going on, but also that replaying conversation. So I can recall conversations from years ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's because it's in a picture. I literally relive that moment.
Yeah.
I can go back to that moment,
Mm-hmm.
and I have worked in the past with people around post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
And the reason I was really able to empathise was because I understand what it's like to replay a situation in your mind 100 times and be back in that moment in time because of our brain. So yes, we recall some conversations, but other things, no.
That's such a good link. Sorry, carry on.
Short-term memory. I mean, I can do in the washing up, go to do something else and do 8 hours of other stuff and then remember, oh, okay, hold on. I'm now painting the shed, but I'm supposed to just be doing the dishes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. But so we're hyper-productive, right? Not necessarily on the things that we wanted to start the day with, but, we get a whole lot of things done, yeah? Tell me then, when were you diagnosed, and it doesn't matter if you are or aren't, but when did you sort of first suspect or know that you had ADHD?
I think probably, like I said, I was raising a neurodiverse son.
Yep.
And so actually for him, I realised nearly immediately when he was a tiny little baby that he was different to the other babies in the group. So, people would talk about, the baby sleeps in the day, and I think, my baby doesn't really sleep in the day. And a lot of people, when I was going to have a baby, because we've always joked about all these things, because I've always been different. Like I'm a lovable rope, I'm the questioner, the challenger, I'm a little bit mischievous, usually stay on the right side of being mischievous, but I push boundaries all the time. And then I was raising a little person that was just like that.
Yeah.
And so he actually got diagnosed at 4, which was really young, but that diagnosis is still rock solid, and he's 13 now, and for the last 9 years we've been going to the regularly to see a paediatrician, but his behaviour was becoming more and more familiar to me.
Right, yeah.
So he displayed actually in different ways, because he's I think girls and boys do display characteristics slightly differently, but his behaviour was not unrecognisable to me. And then I started to do more and more research into ADHD for him, to try and make sure that I was doing everything I could to be the best possible mum that I could be to him. And then it kind of hit me, hang on a minute, why do I resonate so much with all this stuff? And I'm one of those people that are like, I'm sure only boys get ADHD.
Wow. Yeah, we're going to knock that one on the head, huh?
Yeah, and then when I actually, I got a referral through to a psychiatrist to talk about some of the things, because all my life I thought, I'd maybe suffered with depression and anxiety, because anxiety is a really real thing for me. So I'm super confident, and if you ask anybody that knows me, I'm the happiest person, and I'm very playful. But I always felt a little bit of a fraud, because I knew that deep down I wasn't that person. I was that person sometimes, but sometimes I would have the replaying in my mind of someone going, but why can't you just be like them?
Yeah.
Why just be quiet? Why did you knock that glass over? Why are you so clumsy?
Yeah.
Why don't you just accept stuff? And so when I got my referral through to the psychiatrist, the first thing I asked him was, okay, with what I'm about to tell you, I just need to know the visiting hours of the asylum, because I'm probably going to have to let my friends and family know I need a little residential stay there.
Oh.
And then I know, because some of the things, I think you can know, it's not the creative ideas that are a problem. It's not the being very successful in your career. reminder that you don't do the basic things right, and people can keep reminding you, but you haven't done that. And I think, yes, but I'm going to do that. Just I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, the yet bit is important. I think we downplay, or we even forget the importance of yet. And this is the recognizing that that systems and processes, and even the world and things that govern how we run society, and even little things day to day within the house, that there's a way of doing things in mind that we don't necessarily fit, or we don't understand or get, or we don't naturally lend ourselves to, but we'll get to it in a different way. And so it's that acceptance that we can still get to the end result, but we'll just do it differently. So how do we make it okay for everybody to go whichever way you need to do it most effectively and efficiently for you, for us to get to this end result? Now, I could talk about work, or it could be at home making dinner, or whatever else, but we do things differently. And I think in trying to fit in and do things this bog standard way, like the vast majority of people, that crushes us. It really plays on our self-confidence and self-esteem.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, that's why I went through and with diagnosis, and then when I got the formal diagnosis and I spoke to the psychiatrist, it has been a real journey since then, because it's been about 2 years now, and it probably took me about 12 months to be able to kind of say out loud to people, I've got ADHD, and even now the look of like,
okay.
But actually, if they just spent some time with me.
So what are you saying when people go, yeah, okay? Are they doubting it, or are they saying you're making up an excuse, or saying that it's not real, it doesn't exist, or are they saying, well, of course you do?
Actually, probably a combination of all of them. But I think the thing that is the most challenging thing is the people that don't believe. That's not the right. I don't know if it's the right word, because belief is a kind of maybe a non-existent thing. But yeah, I mean, like with my son, but if you just, that's the thing. That's the thing.
Here we go. Yeah.
Then it would be different. And if you just told him off more, if you just gave him more boundaries, if you just didn't let him do that, then it would be easier. And I read an article the other day that said a neurodiverse child by the age of 8 on average receives 25,000 more negative comments than a neurotypical child. So it's no wonder that coupled with confidence comes with self-doubt. Well, how can they say that?
And for that to flow into through the education system, like home education system, all the way into work as well, there's this sense of I know I'm a good person. I know I have these good traits and these abilities, but I'm having to fit in and being told, not maybe explicitly, but at least getting this this sense or this feeling that you don't fit in. That has a big impact on your ability to apply yourself at work. And I also think that as a result of all of that mess that goes on within our heads and our hearts, there's a big implication in terms of our mental well-being as well. I think it's highly likely, I don't know the stats, but I think it's highly likely that there's a correlation between neurodiversity and mental ill health or suffering from negative impacts on our mental well-being, because there's a struggle to it, despite all these amazing gifts, traits, talents, superpowers, as you've called them, Jen, that we have. So it's this, so we're on and we're off, and it's hard to find out where we are and who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, going back to the book that I started to tell you about.
Please.
In there, it's really interesting because the author talks about how, the first, and I think this really speaks to us, is we get to the root of something. We like to understand the very beginning of where something stemmed from. And mental illness in itself, or mental health, is quite interesting because it only really started to become a part of conversation during the slave trade. And actually, depression, the term depression, was first coined when the slaves started to show signs of unhappiness or not wanting to perform what they were supposed to be performing.
Right.
And when they started to challenge that system, they were depressed. And that's probably in all sense of the word, because depressed, like pushed down,
Yeah.
not rising above the pulpit. That's your place.
Yep.
I think we are a long way away from that now. Not as far away as we should be.
Yes, that's true.
A long away from that than we were then.
Yeah.
But actually, words that were put into our language to describe a situation now have become like common day. So we talk about them all the time, and we know the people that do work around depression and around suicide and that, but we don't actually look at, well, who called it mental illness? And maybe it's not a mental illness. And I talked before around changing the conversation around mental health, because mental in itself has a lot of negative connotations to it, around mind health.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, the people that challenge the diagnosis of ADHD or the validity of ADHD as an illness, because they don't necessarily challenge other illnesses, but it's like make sweeping statements about our brains and our minds, and they don't actually do that in any other way.
I think with most medical issues or illness, like, you can find that, but you can't find ADHD. You can only see the resulting behavior of it and attitudes, etc. So you can't actually find ADHD within a person. It's how they are and who they are, and as a result, it's too easy to write off and to use to see it as an excuse, which it's not. It's definitely a reason, but it's not an excuse, right? And I also think what you were describing before around depression, it was almost as if, and I've drawn the link between, as you were talking through that example, that there's sort of depression through suppression. And I feel like sometimes we feel suppressed as well, and people, it's easy to feel suppressed, and as a result of that, there's potential for depression in that. I wonder if we can flip the conversation a little bit and talk about those positive traits. And maybe, Jen, if you could let us know, here, I'm putting you on the spot here, but how have you hacked your ADHD? And the reason I say putting you on the spot, because this is a hard question. It's something we have done all our lives. So it's kind of hard to go, okay, where is actually a hack, because it's my normal? So what do you think maybe you do normally that others wouldn't find so normal?
I think one of our amazing super abilities, and it's totally related to what we've talked about, because we've talked about our minds being very busy and lots of tabs open, and the word that you could use to describe your mind could change at any time. But let's say there's a lot of chaos that happens in our mind. So when there's lots going on and there's no real, all of the tabs are open and spinning, and that's going on.
Yeah.
As we operate, our normal mode of operating is in chaos or crisis, because we might be doing the washing up but thinking about, oh my gosh, but what's going to happen with COVID, world peace, the environment, whatever's happening in our brain. And so one hack is when there is genuine chaos or confusion going on, we're at our absolute best. So during the first COVID lockdown, a colleague of mine was looking for people and approached me to see would I do some recruitment for the nurses during that first lockdown. Now, my role in that was to think, where can we find nurses that aren't currently working in hospitals, groups of them that would be able to go and do swabbing in centres. So my role in that was to very quickly mobilise some attraction, some tracking things of finding nurses. And the first thing I thought of, well, I know that Botox nurses that work in beauty salons, they have to be a registered nurse to do Botox, and they're not working at the moment because nobody's having their faces done while we're in lockdown. So I ran through to all the beauty clinics, and in that first 4-week period, I mobilised 680 nurses.
Wow!
I actually played a pivotal role in our COVID response, and the reason I was able to do that is because I wasn't panicking about all the other stuff. Because I'm busy wherever I am, it doesn't matter whether I'm locked in at home or whether I'm at a party or wherever I am, because my mind is still the same.
Yeah, that's right.
And other people were not maybe coping that well with that. That was an absolute hack, Not only were we fine because it's like chaos is our normal, but actually I was able to strategically think of a plan that we mobilised, that we operated, and 680 nurses in a 4-week period.
I love that. Absolutely love that. I thought you were going to say a dozen, but 600 plus is amazing. And I love how you've described that as well. Like, we're in chaos and everybody else is down here, but when their chaos levels rise, we stay the same. So we appear really, really calm. In fact, it's our normal, isn't it? Which is why I kind of wear this T-shirt. It says, "Trust me, I've got ADHD." I like the double meaning in it, but also you can trust us, because it's the sort of thing that if in a crisis, like boom, 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 boom. Like, we just know what to prioritize and how to do things because we're constantly living in that. And we're almost at ease. We're in our element when things start to turn to shit, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's why, the creativity side of it, and that's the piece that I probably have hacked, just thinking, okay, think differently.
Yep.
But also you just touched on trust. So I actually had that as one of my things that is really, really, really important to me, because I think for me, because I'm so genuinely interested in behaviour, environment, and taking in everything around me, I really pick up quickly when something is not authentic or not quite what it appears, because we're always scratching and we don't just go, oh yeah, that's just the way it is, so that's just the way that I'm going to do it forever. That actually that kind of trust and authenticity becomes a really big thing to us, and we find it really confusing, or I personally find it really confusing, because we like when people are not quite authentic, and then you find it really hard to trust people.
Yes.
And actually, the people I find hardest to trust are neurotypicals, because I sometimes don't understand how they're operating in that way.
Right. Yep. Yeah, it's hard to get a look in, right? And you make a whole lot of assumptions around what's going on in their head and their heart. Yeah.
Yeah, and even that. I've talked recently to lots of neurodiverse people, and lots of us that aren't currently in the mainstream workforce because of lots of needing to kind of step out of that environment. It's fine and it's high paced and it's everything that we love until it's not. until we see it for what it is.
That's right. Yeah.
So
that's a great segue then into what are you working on right now? What's going on for you work-wise?
So I'm doing a couple of things. I run Connectors NZ, which is recruitment for good, and using my network, which is a well-established network of people in businesses and people that are doing entrepreneurial work, and I try to connect people where I can see that actually, having gone through all the stuff that we've gone through and worked through, let's use that for good. So I connect people with whatever things that they need to be able to be their happiest self.
Yeah, great. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, and then another little pet project of mine is the Rebel Hearts Club.
Okay, tell us about that.
So I set up the Rebel Hearts Club initially around bringing women, friends, but any women that want to come to my house on a Wednesday and do arts and crafts. Now, it's an interesting one because to me, the more creative everybody is, the more creative we all are. So, and as adults, I think we don't necessarily pursue new hobbies and tasks because our lives are busy with being parents, partners, housekeepers, workers, all those things, and we actually forget just to stop and, what's it like, the hands dirty or knitting or whatever people want to do, and bring people together and have conversations that you don't necessarily have. And it kind of sparked my interest around the referendum and the voting that was going on at the time, and I wanted to bring people together to understand, because we need lots of information, understand what's happening in people's minds, what information do they have, and just generally questioning and bringing people together, and that's gone really well.
Great.
It's been really interesting. But then, and my new recent one is going to be the Rebel Spirits Club.
Okay, is that something new, or is it a twist on the Rebel Hearts Club?
I think it's a twist on it. So the Rebel Hearts Club, I kept exclusively female to be able to allow women to be women and talk about what they want. But actually, I think there's a big call to kind of do that more rebel spirits for everybody, because it's not an exclusive thing. But thinking about how we bring people together to make, challenge and question some of those things that aren't, because when there's not a mass of people thinking about things, then nothing really changes. So, I want to change the education system, probably the government, the way that we allocate things to people. How much paperwork is really necessary?
Yep. Got to start somewhere, huh? So what's behind the name, the Rebel Hearts and Rebel Spirits?
So the rebel piece is because that's where we're kind of put. That, to me, that's where I've always been put.
Uh-huh.
That thing. But the heart thing is really important, because I think we are mischievous and rebellious, or I am mischievous and rebellious to a point, but always with good heart.
Yeah.
I only want to challenge stuff that other people benefit from, that when you've spent your whole life masking significant parts of your personality because it's not deemed as appropriate or it's not socially acceptable in some situations just to shout squirrel, that kind of rebel piece comes in. But the heart piece is because we usually stand up for other groups of people as well.
Yeah.
Why I wanted to study criminology, it's why as a 21-year-old female I spent significant amounts of time in high security prisons in the UK working with murderers, and understanding why.
Yeah.
And actually the reason that I couldn't continue working in criminology and couldn't continue working was because I found it really hard when I looked at this situation, and you kind of get to the point where you think people are kind of born into everyone's born into, nobody chooses where they were born or who they were born to.
Mm-hmm.
And you're kind of born onto a sort of pathway. And yes, there's opportunities to break off that, and there are examples, and people can talk about people that did break out of these things. But the majority of people don't actually get to do that. And I think that's why we stick up to people. So it's like, how do we make that amplify our hearts so that everybody feels included and welcomed, and that, and then
that's cool, super cool. And because what you've described us as being really good advocates based on our abilities to empathize with people. Like we don't have to have been through what they go through, but we can get a real sense of what it's like to be them, and as a result we can without some of that baggage we can take their cause forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The last one of the other companies that I run is called Post Transition, and we set that up to work with ex-military people that were transitioning into civilian jobs, and it was kind of natural to go because I used to meet lots of ex-military people, and I think, God, your skills would be so useful in the corporates that I've been recruiting for, but they had no way in, and everything's networks and people you know and all sorts of things. So I started to work with people, and then I got a real feeling of what people, when people left the military, the feeling of almost abandonment, of like, they left, the friends have gone, the situation, it's a really
of course,
chaotic world out here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I actually did the first piece of research in New Zealand, and maybe in the world, but definitely in New Zealand, on the impact of transition on individuals. And I just last month had it published, my article published in the University of Cambridge, the Business Journal, around the kind of lack of the wastage of a skill set when people come out and then they're not actually welcomed into the civilian workforce, not utilised to the best of their ability, because we can see all of those things, but things that became very challenging with that is that I emphasised almost too much with how people felt.
It's definitely a thread of that, for sure.
Yeah, and at some points I thought, I could talk to people, and actually as a group of people they're very sensitive on on people you don't understand, but I was very well accepted because they knew that I understood, because I could say the next part for them.
Yeah.
So I understood what it, I really, really empathised to the point where it was affecting me.
Yeah, I get it.
You can feel like you're going through what someone else is. I'm a very sensitive person, so I pick up on other people's emotions. So I can very quickly get drawn into feeling their pain.
Yeah. And that can be a trap, can't it? Like, it's a great thing to be able to relate to people, but also we take on. And for, we've talked also about reflecting and ruminating on stuff. We take that home, and then you take that into bed and into your head with you as well, and replay that at the end of the day. And that's, we've got to find ways of keeping ourselves safe in the stories from other people that we take on, because we feel that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Hey Jen, congrats so much on the publication of your research and your article. That's very cool. Can we find that on the Cambridge website, or is that available in some way?
Yeah, it's I'll send you a link.
Okay, cool.
It's the University of Cambridge Business Journal.
Brilliant. Hey, it's been amazing talking to you. Thanks so much for your time. How can we get in touch with you if you want people to hit you up, check you out, make contact with you? What's the two best ways of doing that?
LinkedIn or email.
So Jenny Martin at LinkedIn, find you there?
Yes, I think it's Jenny Martin.
Yeah, look, we'll remember your face, and then we'll just find you on LinkedIn. There you go. Brilliant. Hey, look, thanks so much for your time, Jen. Really appreciate you taking the time to have a chat with me, and just keep going. You're doing amazing work, really inspiring, and I love the way that you're connecting minds, hearts, and spirits as well. So keep going and take care.
Thank you.
No trouble. Well, there you have it. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the You, Me and ADHD podcast. My hope is that it's been worth your time, of some value, that it's been interesting or even enlightening, perhaps. Hey, if nothing else, I hope it's been entertaining. I really appreciate you showing up. You see, I really want to do some serious damage to the stigma and stereotype that ADHD is bad, that it's wrong, and that those of us born with ADHD brains are somehow broken, because we're none of those things. And you can help with this too. If you were to like, comment, or even share a link to any one of these episodes or the entire podcast, just to one person, I'll be a happy little ADHD camper. And I love camping. I do. So thanks for stopping by. I hope to see you soon. Stay in touch. Get in touch in any way you feel the need. And I look forward to chatting. Until then, peace, love, and heaps of impulsivity. Take care. Bye.